Alexandre Desplat, you are a two-time Academy Award-winning composer, and you're in contention again this year, possibly for Isle of Dogs and also the Sisters Brothers. I wanted to ask you about Isle of Dogs. What was your process like in developing the score for this movie?
Well, it's always very organic with Wes. Early on, he knows where he wants music to be heading to. Not precisely, but he has an idea. So I come near to this idea and I try to develop what he has in mind and bring it into the music world and the music notes. He spoke to me about the film very early on and mentioned the idea of using taiko drums. It's Japanese big, drums that are used since the beginning of times in Japan. And but that's one element. But actually, it became the driving element that will take possession of the film. It is actually playing the melody of the film instead of having a little tune or a melody for the main character, Atari, the little boy. The taikos are the melody. They generate so much energy and weight that they make us feel that this little boy is brave, he's going on a long adventure. There will be dangers, and that he will succeed like a knight going into war with his army of dogs. So that's where it all started, with the Japanese drums.
And I was wondering, was your process for developing the score for the Sisters Brothers, was that any different than how you approached doing the score for Isle of Dogs?
Oh yes, that's very, very different. Sisters Brothers is a Western, and that's the main issue for me that I had to deal with. How do you write the music of a Western after so many movies have been done with fantastic scores? Different, going from the epic of Elmer Bernstein or Bruce Broughton to Ennio Morricone and his operatic scores from Leone to the folk, depressive Neil Young scores of Dead Man. So many things cut up well with the Coens. So many scores that could be influential, but you don't know where to start. And I've realized that when you start working on a film, it's always good to question yourself, to ask, what if we was something else? What if it was not a Western? That was the question I asked myself. What if it was a film noir? Because it's the story of two killers chasing other people and killing them, or trying to kill them. Ruthless killers. Like a movie of the 40s, 50s. Like a John Huston, a Robert Schumacher movie. And that's where it started, actually. And that's why I decided to use kind of jazz blues combo, a la Charlie Mingus a bit, where the piano has a very important part, rhythm part, and but with strange elements on top, prepared piano, an electric violin, which creates not melodic elements, but sounds, textures, which, in the film, they're going to the Wild West, which is some kind unknown for them. They even go to the sea, which they don't know. And the violin creates this otherworldly sound. So it's a mix of blues, jazz, dark film noir with this strange combination of like prepared piano and electric violin, and at times the string orchestra to give some width when scoped to the music, to the film. I can't hear you.
I apologize for that. I have my microphone on mute. So it's interesting that you have done that. You're kind of highlighting these two movies with directors that you've worked with very often. This was your third movie with Wes Anderson, or fourth movie, sorry. And as you told me before, your seventh movie was Jacques Audiard, who directed The Sisters Brothers. Because you've worked with these people previous time, does that make it easier to develop the kind of music that they're aiming for with their films, as opposed to working with someone for the first time?
It doesn't make it easier. I wouldn't say it makes it easier, because the challenge is always very high demand, very, very frightening, because you know that you have to be as good as the last time. If you ever were good, you have to be even better. It's easier because there's a friendship or some kind of a collaborative energy which is already installed. But the danger is the same. The challenge is the same. You want to surprise your partner and director that has called you and has been loyal to you, and you want to make sure that you fulfill his desires. It's not that it's a bit easier, but it's not easy.
So, in general, when you're composing something for a film, what factors do you usually like to take into account when putting together a composition?
Well, I've learned a lot from writing stage music, and I think what I really focus on is the characters, maybe more than the story. The storyline helps for the arc of the film, but what stays with you when you go back home, it's not the storyline. Maybe there's a twist that you remember, but mostly it's the characters and the actors who play these characters. So I really focus on that. And could it be an animated movie or a live action movie? To me, it's the same. It's how do I give more depth, more emotion, more strength to the characters, how I can transcend their personality towards the audience, for the audience to be even more moved or interested in the characters.
Did you find that there was a character and I know you said it's always a challenge, but was there a character in either Isle of Dogs or The Sisters Brothers that you found particularly difficult to capture a certain aspect of them through your music?
Yes, I would say maybe in Sisters Brothers, but is you're following the two brothers, and in the meantime, there's two other characters which are meeting and going their way, and actually the two brothers are chasing them. We learn slowly that actually they're chasing these two guys, played by Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed. Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed. And I think these two characters were the most difficult because, first of all, it's not a usual Western. It's a philosophical Western with some fantasy. The gold and the look for gold is not real. It's something fantasized. And these two characters, these spiral characters, not the killers, but the two other guys, they dream of a new world. They're dreaming of a new society, a future. And it's tricky to put music on that, without being at the top. pushing towards something too emphatic. So I actually did the opposite. When we are with them, I'm playing some kind of a little strange mechanic played with a prepared piano, with a lot of air. There's not it's not very full, the orchestration, so you can listen to them and keep the intimacy that they create with the audience. And that was challenging to find music for these characters.
Do you ever find, of course, with a movie like Isle of Dogs, because the film is set in Japan and has all these Japanese influences on it? Obviously, there's Japanese influence on the music that you composed. Is it harder to try to incorporate that kind of established style, like another genre or a type of culture, into a music composition?
What we decided on this one is actually to avoid any, aside from the taiko drums, there's no other folkloric instruments, nothing. There's no shakuhachi, there's no shamisen or biwa or koto, there's nothing. It's the taikos are strong enough, they have such a range of sounds, frequency and dynamic that can do a lot. And around the satellites, and these satellites are occidental satellites, saxophones, recorders, French horns, jazz double bass, which keeps us in our world, even though we are set in Japan. We keep the world of music, which is our own. We're not trying to mimic or look down at the folkloric sound. But we didn't want that. We wanted to be respectful, and there are some homage in the film, great homage to Japanese culture. But musically, we kept it as clean as we could.
So I'm looking back on your filmography, and it's staggering. The amount of movies that you've made compositions for. Is there a genre that you haven't composed for that you would really like to someday do a score for?
Well, I think what I like to do is good movies. That's and there's not that many, and I wish I could only do great movies because I love cinema, and that's why I score films. I love cinema and I love music. It's not just for music; it's for cinema, which have been my passion since I'm a teenager. I think there's one genre I'd love to do is a superhero movie. I've never done that, and I think that would be a real challenge for me because I would have to, pump myself up and to do something, pump my muscles up to do it. It's a good challenge, I think. I'd love to do that.
And I'm curious. When I look at your filmography, I see these clumps of movies. Like I know, I think one year, I think it was maybe 2012. You had there were 6 or 7 films that came out that you had scored. How long does it take to compose a score to a feature film? Usually,
I think in 2010 I did 9 or 10. But if you look back to the great composers of the 50s, 60s, like Mancini, he did many years in a row, 10 movies a year. So I'm a worm compared to Mancini. And name Jerry Goldsmith, as I work so fast. What I've learned through the years to work quickly, because I'm trained like an athlete, and I like also to jump into a movie one after the other and focus on it and put all my energy and my concentration. So can go from 2-3 weeks, like Imitation Game, to 2 months and a half for Harry Potter, something like that.
And So the last thing I want to ask you is, so we are an awards site, and you are the current reigning champ for the Oscar for Best Original Score. And I recently rewatched your first win for the Grand Budapest Hotel, which was Marvel. I love that score. It's so whimsical. It just fits it so perfectly. Um, what was interesting about your first win is that one of the people that you beat was yourself for the score for the Imitation Game. When Julie Andrews read your name, did you hear that she said the Grand Budapest Hotel, or did you not know which one you were going up for?
No, well, first of all, I was sure that I was not going to win because of these two nominations. Usually they just split your votes and don't win. There's very few examples of win. So I was really, back in my chair and waiting for someone else to go on stage. I had not prepared a speech at all. But I did hear my name. And I did hear Grand Budapest because I heard the music starting as I was rising from my chair and kissing my wife. I must say that I was so unprepared that I did not really appreciate the moment as I should have had. I was very impressed that it was Julie Andrews. I was very moved that it was her. And I was very moved that evening. The second Oscar, I had prepared a speech, and the movie was doing so well everywhere that I was maybe more tempted to believe that it could happen, even though there was strong competition. And I was more relaxed when I got on stage. I can't even remember who gave me the envelope. Was it Common?
It was Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken, yes. Yes. And it was, I was so happy because also the film was getting so much recognition. And Guillermo is such a beautiful, human being. I was so happy for him to also get all this light on his work. It was very different.
Well, Mr. Desplat, I can't thank you enough for this. Your scores are for Isle of Dogs and The Sisters Brothers, and we wish you all the best this award season.
Thank you very much. Cross fingers.